it's great to work within the system, but you've got to make sure that the system continues to evolve, But this isn't something where I'm going to say, hey, I want to be the party chair for the next decade. I know there are people who are more progressive than myself, which I'm not in the middle by any means, but who are more progressive than I am. I know there are people who have different views and more understanding of how to work certain things than I do. We've got to keep evolving. We've got to keep growing, 'cause again, we just have to make sure we're casting as large of a net as possible, and being stagnant or being complacent just doesn't work anymore. It's good to be in the know. It's good to be in the system, but you've got to make sure that by being in the system, you're not closing off the system. I want to make sure like that's a huge thing for me. Whether it's a political party, whether it's anything, any organization, they should be open. They should be open and inviting and welcoming.
All right, so today on Sunken Press, we have we're trying a new technology. We have our first remote interview.
I'm excited for it.
I'm super excited. So, Mr. Video Phone Technology, do you want to introduce yourself?
So my name is Andy Asadorian, and if you don't get the last name right, that's okay. 99% of telemarketers don't either.
What do they call you?
Anything close. I think the worst I got was accordion one time. I was maybe 13, 14 years old, just juvenile enough still that when they called my parents' house and said, we need to speak to Mr. and Mrs. Accordion, my response was something to the effect of, you need to try again. And I hung up, not knowing that my dad was like 2 feet behind me, to which I heard, what the hell was that?
As far as nicknames go, that's really not the worst, like for kids. They could have been crueler.
What's up? I'm Andy Accordion. I train hop.
Yeah, no, look at the first 2 letters of my last name and you can guess what the most commonly used nickname was,
Was it ass?
Yeah, people would say, people would lean into, oh, Andy Asadorian. People would, if they were feeling rather especially clever, they would say asshole Dorian, and it's like, okay, that's.
So what is your position and what are you doing here today?
So currently I chair the Tri-Cities Townships Democratic Precinct Committee. So that covers the cities of Granite City, Madison, Venice, the village of Pontoon Beach, and unincorporated Mitchell as well, which is actually 4 different townships worth of areas. What I'm hoping to do moving forward, though, is actually get elected as the Madison County Democratic Party chair. We're going to be holding a special meeting of the Madison County Democratic Central Committee next Wednesday night. And yeah, like I said, I'm reaching out to people talking about that and just hoping to keep the party moving in the correct direction, which I've been trying to say correct direction and not right direction. I feel like those can be antitheses,
Yeah. So what is the correct direction of the Madison County Democratic Party, in your opinion?
Obviously, being younger rather than older, I'm going to tend to be more liberal, more progressive, more open-minded and accepting than some of my predecessors. And I want to be very careful how I say that, because I don't at all want to make it seem like everyone was not. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're going to have standouts in every generation that are more or less progressive than the rest of their generation around them might be. I think what's really key for the party moving forward is making sure that we're deliberate, making sure that we're strategic, and making sure that we're finding every way possible to increase the net that we're casting, so that people don't sit there and say, well, what have Democrats done for me recently? And the answer is, I don't know, nothing, versus, hey, you might not agree with things at the federal level, but here your neighbors actually care about the same things that you do. People in Washington, D.C. probably don't know, or certainly don't know as well, the cost of milk or eggs or gasoline or picket in Granite City, Illinois, Alton, Illinois, Wood River, Highland, as much as the people who are living there do. So we've got to make sure that people in and around Madison County know that we're here, we're not going anywhere, and we're still trying to work to make the area better.
So, okay, I love that. I love hearing that. Why were there so many county spots last election that were void of a Democratic candidate? That was something that it just really rubbed me the wrong way because I don't know if I'm a Democrat, but I'm definitely not a Republican. Like if given the choice between the two, I'm going to pick Democrat. I mean,
It's the lesser of the evil.
yeah, it is the lesser. And I would like
It
to think of like local Democrats as something more than the lesser of two evils because, you know, you're our neighbors. Like you said, you know the things going on with our communities. So with this issue, to me, it was wild to see such a pivotal and contentious election year not have any Democrats populate some of the most important positions in the county. And like, what happened?
Are you familiar with the phrase, failing to plan is planning to fail?
Yeah,
So there's going to be a little bit of a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry for that.
have it.
I was first elected as a Democrat precinct committee member back in 2008. So I joke, me and my man Barack ran at the same time, and I'm quick to admit, he got me more votes than I got for him. So that's okay. I remember when I was first elected, I would say things like, hey, here are the candidates right now for pick the position or positions. What's next? Where's the bench? Who's the next person up? You would have thought, the way some people responded to that question, that I had spoken ill of their family. And it's like, well, there's no offense intended. We've got to look down the road. Otherwise, we're going to fall behind. Because inevitably, one of three things will happen. Somebody loses, somebody decides not to run again, or, unfortunately, somebody dies in office. And no matter which of the three things it is, you've got to have, when you're working in a political party, I say working, volunteering, but you know what I mean, when you're in that role, you've got to have what's next in mind. And you can't afford to be reactionary. So 2008, things were still kind of, Democrats were high on the hog. It wasn't across the county where the only election that mattered was the primary, but in some areas of the county it still was. 2010 was bad because the rise of the Tea Party and opposition to Obama and things like that. Okay, fine. 2012 was a little better. 2014 was okay. 2016 was bad. 2018 was bad. And then in 2020 is when we first started seeing a few instances of, hey, why don't we have anyone running in this position? And it got worse in 22. And then in 24, it was the lowest point, I think it all goes back to failing to plan, and not to say that in 24 there was failure to plan or in 22 there was failure to plan, but before that, in 18 and 16 and 14 and 12, and in all the odd years too, because you don't just campaign in partisan years. You know what I mean? You've got to draft. You've got to know when position A comes open, person number one is the person that ideally would pursue the position. Now, if there's a person number two who pops up and is the better candidate, hey, awesome. But you've got to have something in mind so that you can say, okay, when X, then Y. We didn't look down the road when we should have. And if we did, we didn't do it well enough. We didn't communicate with people well enough. Not that we didn't try, we just didn't do it well enough. Which is why even in the elections where there was competition, where there were Democratic candidates, we weren't successful, or we weren't as successful as we could have been, and that's a bummer, to put it extremely mildly, but it gives hope that, hey, if we did this and this kind of worked, but if we did this and this didn't work at all, well, okay, let's move on from that. Let's tweak this and go from this kind of worked to hopefully this really works, and let's see how we can keep moving ourselves forward. Let's see how we can, like I said earlier, keep increasing the size of the network casting, and making sure that not only are we communicating with people, but that we're doing so in a way that's effective and efficient for the people we're communicating with, I don't know when the last time that a Democrat candidate in Madison County hopped on a podcast and talked about anything with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, cannot recall.
My point is, though, we've got to find ways to make sure that we're reaching people that we wouldn't normally reach. We've got to move out of our comfort zone. We've got to say letters and walking and phone calls or friend-to-friend cards. That all worked 30 years ago, kind of worked 20 years ago. It doesn't work now. It won't work next year as well.
So I was a reporter in 2016, and I remember when
Okay.
Kurt Prinzler won because I
Yeah.
was at the Madison County Democrats group, and I was expecting to be the like I chose being there because that's who I expected to win. Like I've met Kurt Prinzler, who's going to elect him, and the answer was Madison County, and that
Right.
blew me away. Like that's whenever I started thinking to myself, wait a second, when did the blue pro union Madison County not just flip red because like a charismatic populist, but flip red for like a guy who I'm pretty sure is a robot? Like how did that occur? Like it baffled me. It genuinely just it bonked my clonkers, man. Cause I don't know. I don't know if anyone here has met Kurt Prinzler, but dude, dude, it's uncomfortable
Is
to
it?
be in his presence. Yes. Yeah, it's real weird he had access to all the computers in Madison County without anyone knowing about it. Remember that?
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. That was weird as hell. So anyway, anyways, so yeah, what caused that flip? Because it was dramatic, it was weird, and it was not at the hands of a candidate I understood.
What I'm going to tell you is obviously all my personal opinion, what I
Absolutely.
witnessed, what I witnessed. I don't want to, nor am I going to claim to say, oh, I have facts A, B, and C to back. No, this is what I witnessed.
Yeah, this is vibes.
So I mentioned that I first got elected in 2008. I mentioned that was obviously the same year Obama was elected president. You all know this. Um, I have never in my life heard the N-word used more than when I was out campaigning in 2008 and 2012. Um, I think unfortunately, and this isn't just in Granite City, and I want to be very clear about that, um, because unfortunately Granite has a little bit of a racially insensitive background, a history,
Relatable in Alton.
hadn't heard the N-word used that much ever, and it's like, man, I'm fortunate to have not heard the N-word used that much, growing up, but like, I'm hearing a lot now. So I think that his presence in the political arena, although it did a lot to move the country forward, unfortunately, it also ramped up the bigotry in some people to where they felt like they could or should or had the right to express that hate. And that just sucks. I mean, they've got the same First Amendment rights you and I do, but that just sucks. I mean, just I don't hate many things, but I hate hateful people.
Yeah.
Um,
The paradox of tolerance, you tolerate the intolerant. Next thing you know, you're watching people like call each other horrible names,
yes,
slurs, refer to people as it. Like the dehumanization aspect is real gut wrenching. Like you understand 1930s Germany at this point.
yeah. I love that you mentioned, by the way, the paradox of tolerance. I read about that. I'm sure I've read about it before. I remember reading about it more recently, summer of last year. And it's like, oh man, this knocks it out of the park in terms of like hitting the nail on the head, if you will, not to be too cliche with two in a row. And I'm sorry about that, but like this really hits. Um, again, when you're trying to be out campaigning, when you're trying to be out saying, hey, please support this person and here's why, you got to use more honey than spikes, but
Unless you're Trump, and then that's all spice.
I mean, I do think that there's an aspect of like the American zeitgeist that just demands a strong hand come in and say, we ain't putting up with this shit no more. And it sucks that the person who did that was like this troglodyte billionaire who just hates everybody who doesn't love him. And then the people who love narcissists like that easily are the people who hate other people the easiest. So it's just like watching the country devolve into this just motivated by bigotry hellhole has been frightening. So that contributed to 2016, you think?
yeah, for sure. I mean, again, you've got some bigotry, whether it was in people's hearts, in people's minds, in their voice, and then come 2016, now you've got this person who's giving a national presence to it, and openly inviting and certainly inciting it, I don't think that Kurt Prenzler won that election as much as I think that one of two things happened. Democrats lost that election, or Donald Trump, like I said, like I joked about earlier, like Barack got me more votes than I got him. I think Trump got Prenzler more votes than vice versa,
Oh,
Yeah, so I mean, 100%. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, again, my opinion, my opinion.
no, I respect that. I respect that. How much of a youth revival are like we're talking about reactionary? In 2024, I've seen reactionary on everything. Like we're all reacting. How much of a resurgence of youth have you seen? Like how many young people are like, "Hey, I need to do something politically. Shit's pretty bad out here. I need to do something. I need to get involved." Have you seen that, or are you hoping for it?
Sure, this is a great question. I need to answer it with a question of my own.
Yeah, name it.
When you say young, 30 and under, 25 and under, what's your kind of range there? Because I want to make sure I'm answering fairly.
So if I'm going politics wise, I'm gonna say 50 and younger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I mean,
I was wondering about like 25, 30 and under.
yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's
Ways.
both because
Both ways.
I say under 50 because I know the general range of ages of elected officials. Nicole's saying 25 to 30 because she has hope for the future.
I do.
So yeah,
So, I'll say I've seen a decent amount of activity, probably in the 30 to 45 range, where there wasn't before.
that's
And I'm
us.
actually thrilled that I've seen actually a lot of a large increase in activity in the 50 plus generation as well. Um, just because I thought those were people we had lost, an election or two ago because of such fringe social ideas as everyone having the right to privacy and living their life how they, feel the need to live their lives. As far as the 25 and under, I think that's more of a goal and a shifting of strategies to make sure that we're communicating efficiently and effectively with people. I hinted at it earlier when I said, I don't know when the last time was that someone came on from our party and, appeared on a podcast, at least locally.
I think like you guys should have a more of a showing in like protests, pride, like things where you know that the Republicans have dejected folks. Like because again, I'm not really much of a Democrat. I don't know what I am, but I would be way more attracted to a political party that met me where I was going to be. Like I'm 36, but I find myself in crowds of people between like 21 and 45 constantly. And it's like last night at the night market, there's a hippie band playing in Alton. Like you could get some people to talk about democratic politics and strategy there. Same thing with the protest, the No More Kings one coming up this Saturday. Same thing with the Pride events. Like Democrats, I think, are really good at not being Republicans sometimes. But then there's other shit like Nikki Budzinski, who I like usually, was one of the 70 plus Democrats who was like, "Thank you, ICE, for all you do in our communities." And it's like,
I
yeah,
know about that.
yeah, no, look into that. So I feel like there's a lot of trying to do reconciliation that shouldn't happen, but I think we should get to that after the break. I'm going to give you a little time to prep that one. All right, cool. We'll be back in a little bit. Boop. Don't you like being an informed member of your community? Don't you feel like you're a part of something larger when you watch these interviews?
You don't have to like everything we put out, but you do have to like and share everything we put out.
Yeah, like share it on your Facebook. Send it to the group chat. You can comment and say, "Hey, that guy is fat." And I'll say, "That's pretty cool. Thanks for commenting, guy."
Do it for Sunken Press.
Hey, what's up? We're back from the break with Andy Asadorian.
Andy A.
Andy A. Andy Accordion. Accordion
That's
was
it.
my favorite. I'm Andy. Like, a guy named Andy Accordion seems like he'd have like a face tattoo.
Actually, sounds like a little bit like a nerdy superhero in a way.
I was just going to say, like, that's 100% a superhero.
All right, we left on a cliffhanger. We were talking about how Democrats can play a vital role in community and also like when to reconcile with Republicans and when not to, because a lot of people in our community they voted Republican because they thought that's how their needs would get met. And like, we can't throw them off the boat just because they helped throw us into this position. We have to get them on a better boat. So what is your plan and the plan of the Madison County Democrats in general that you've seen to meet community where it is and address the needs that we all have?
As far as meeting community where it is and what the plan has been and what the plan is moving forward, it's actually things that we're already doing, even if it's not, even if no one's there waving the Madison County Democrat Party flag while doing it. So, for example, every Friday there's a protest from noon to 2 in Edwardsville, right at the corner of Troy Road and I think it's St. Louis Street, where the Edwardsville Public Library is, catty corner from St. Boniface, you know?
Yep, we just talked to
And let
on the road.
gods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the no kings.
The no king.
Totally different.
The no
It's totally different.
The no.
This is an organic one,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah. So this actually started, there was a woman who was very upset with the election outcome in 2024 and started just by like, hey, this bothers me and I need to get this out somehow. And then Doge and all that nonsense started. And she literally started like making signs, I don't like this. And here's my thoughts on this. And then she went out one Friday, and just started walking right there, back and forth. And people saw her and they thought, man, we agree with this person. And because of the political climate today, she shouldn't be by herself. And then they met up with her. And then the following Friday, there were like 6 or 8 of them. And then there were like 38 or 50. And then there were 90. And over the last few weeks, it's been anywhere from 120 up to like 330.
Wow.
Yep.
And it's just awesome, And that's one example. Every Sunday in Alton, I believe it's at Lincoln Douglas Square.
Yep, we just interviewed Clayton for our last episode, the organizer of it.
Yeah, so that one is more no kings, correct?
No, that one is the same thing. He saw what was going on in
okay.
Edwardsville. He saw the 50-51 movement in Springfield. He wanted to bring it to Alton, so he brought it to Alton, and people started showing up just like they did in Edwardsville. And there's a lot of crossover, of course, but like, it's a really cool organic one. And then we're doing the No More Kings March tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is Saturday. This is going to air after that happens, but
Okay.
yeah, we're doing the No More Kings March, and we're going to be.
I didn't realize there were so many different ones going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of
different
people who hate what's going on.
And these are only the two, the only two I mentioned. These are the ones in Madison County. I know St. Clair County has their thing on, I believe, Friday nights and Saturdays as well, down at the square, which, let's be honest, is actually a roundabout, but that's neither here nor there. So there's plenty going on across the river too.
Macoupin County is doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that started with a pride movement up there. Like, we're seeing a lot of growth. They're doing it outside of Hillsborough, which is Montgomery
I know
County.
Thaman County also has some.
Yeah, well, I mean, Springfield, of course, has it, but like, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're having in Granite City, we're having a No Kings protest of our own. So again, that's organized by the Tri-Cities Democratic Precinct Committee, and it's promoted by that group. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's not just going to draw Democrats, and it might even draw some Republicans. So we obviously have to be sure that while we're being present in the community, that we're saying, hey, this is organized by Democrats. And even if you don't align with us entirely, or even in a majority of things, where do we agree? And where do we say, okay, here's where we are. Here's where we can be if things go right. Here's where we can be if things go wrong, and we have to utilize those opportunities for connection. You mentioned pride festivals and things like that. I know the county party is going to be having a booth at Alton Pride.
Hell yeah. I bought this shirt to celebrate Alton Pride.
Yeah.
Matt Reedy made it. Good stuff.
So we're making sure we're getting out. We're making sure that while we are there, or while our people are there, we're talking to people about, hey, where, depending on where you live, here's when this group meets, where this group meets, here's how to get active and things like that. And obviously, I'm assuming we're going to talk about that in just a bit.
Absolutely.
But again, it's meeting people where they are. It's kind of like I alluded to before the break. It's communicating with people how they do so, letters, phone, and this is obviously more during election season, but letters, phone calls, indoor, like in person, door to door campaigning. That's all good, and that's really best for probably older generations. But then as we look at generations after ours, if I've got family who are in their early to mid 20s, If I try and call that person and talk politics with them, or if I try and mail them a letter about talking about politics, I'm just wasting my time. If I put something on YouTube or TikTok, or if I tell them, hey, I was on this podcast, that's media that they'll want to consume, you know? That's more in line with their generation. And again, we have to be sure that we're meeting people where they are and we're communicating with people how they need to be communicated with, how they're comfortable being communicated with, if we truly want to have any kind of immediate or long lasting effect on those people and impact on how those people behave and vote and things like that.
I'm going to piggyback off of this question actually real quick and get a little more specific. I think especially in where we are in Southern Illinois area, Southern Missouri, a lot of our rural voters are Republican because they feel like it aligns. Do you have any plans on how to, I guess, get their vote in the rural communities who tend
That's a really good one. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of like good rural poll for Democrats.
And I know my own family, I mean, they're all Trumpers, but they live in, you know, a small town outside of Springfield, rural farming community. And so to them, a lot of their values align with Republicans. So,
you know, there are certain things that each party obviously tends to lean more towards than others. Republicans tend in general, to lean more towards rural communities rather than urban ones, again, in general. That being said, there are things that affect rural community members, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, equally. There was a portion of, I believe it's the One Big Beautiful Bill, which I can't roll my eyes hard enough about the name of, that talks about eliminating certain access for like local hospitals. I think of people out in Litchfield and surrounding rural areas where like the Litchfield Hospital is going to be probably number one on the list in the whole state that would be, you know, kicked out or, you know, like affected by this. We have to get back to making sure that people know, hey, your wants are our wants. Your needs are our needs. People who live on farms need affordable groceries and affordable access to healthcare just as much as people who live on a street with 7 other people in either direction and 14 or 15 people right across the street from them. You know, it matters, obviously, but it doesn't matter where you are or where you're going to be. We all need the same things. And we as a party have to do better about conveying that, you know. We just have to be more strategic about it, you know, with rural communities. Maybe that's, you know, trying to go to Farm Bureau meetings. Maybe that's trying to have town halls at township events, or maybe that is just as simple as going door to door and then inviting some of those residents to invite you to talk to their neighbors. You know, we've got to make sure that people know that not only are we there for them, but we're there with them.
I like that. Yeah, like we're all in this together. And that is one thing that the Democrats, I think, on especially a federal level, have kind of failed us. Like, I love Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez because she was a bartender. You know, she's my age. She was a bartender. She was cool. She is just...
She's down.
Yeah. I mean, either that or else she's a really good PR person who sells us the idea of that. But the very fact that I had to add that caveat shows what's wrong with modern politics. Like, I can't just trust somebody was a really cool, open person who we luckily elected, who is looking out for the little guy. Madison County is like the largest county in Illinois outside the collar counties. So you would have a pretty interesting role if you are elected to be the head of the Madison County Democrats.
And actually breaking it down a little more, because one of the premise of the podcast is he is a lot more informed about politics than I am. I'm interested in learning more. So for those of us like me out there, what exactly would your role be if you were elected? Break it down for us, like day-to-day activities.
I'll even go a little bit more than what you just asked. So let me start at the very basic level of partisan politics, like the precinct committee person. You're familiar with the House of Representatives and how there's a position in the House that's called the whip. And that person's job is to go and get members of their party to go and vote in favor or in opposition of Bill X, whatever Bill X is. You either want to advance it or you want to defeat it. The precinct committee person's role in a party, and not just the Democrat Party, but in any political party, is basically to serve as the whip for the electorate. Hey, I'd like for you to vote for candidate A in party number 1 because of these reasons. They're broken down into precincts, which are determined by congressional districts, and I won't give you the bore of trying to explain that. Also, I'm not the most knowledgeable on how exactly each precinct is determined by the congressional district, so I also won't speak out of my wheelhouse. But again, that's what the position does. They're the whips for each individual party, asking for voters to support their candidates for their party. You move up from individual precinct committee members. Those all exist in what are referred to as township parties. So Alton Township may or may not align perfectly with the city of Alton, and that's not uncommon if it doesn't. Granite City Township, for example, has a vast majority of Granite City, but I think there are actually a few Granite City addresses that are in Namioki Township or Shoto Township. It's not uncommon.
Yeah, some Alton addresses are in Wood River Township.
Yeah, okay.
So then your township parties all come together within the same county, obviously, to make up the county party as a whole. So each precinct committee person is responsible for their precinct, and then it becomes ideally they help out elsewhere where they can, because again, we're all in this together. Each township party is responsible for their specific township, making sure to get out the vote and things like that, ideally in a successful manner. And then the county party just oversees what the townships do. So if I were fortunate enough to get the county party chair's role, I would be basically the head of the Democratic Precinct Committee members of Madison County. What that would look like from a day-to-day perspective would be a lot of strategy with making sure, okay, how are we doing on fundraising? It's an odd year, so we don't have to worry about labor unions or individuals or attorneys or things like that giving a lot of money to candidates, partisan candidates right now, because it's not a partisan election year. So how do we look at fundraising for an odd year? How do we look at candidate recruitment in odd years? There's a group called Madco Blue, which I'm not sure if you all are familiar with or not.
I'm a part of it on Facebook.
Yeah. So they originated, if you don't know this, Nicole, they originated in Edwardsville back in 2022, trying to find some county board candidates because, Corey, as you alluded to earlier, there were too many positions where it's like, well, hey, nobody's running for this seat where there's only an incumbent Republican. So how do we fix that? So they recruited some county board candidates in 2022. They did the same thing in 2024. In 2024, they had to expand towards Collinsville, Maryville, Wood River to a degree because there were more candidates that they were aware of. So I'd love to see them, though, continue to basically be the recruiting tool and the recruiting arm of the party, because they just not only do they find a way to engage people, but they find a way to excite people. They find a way to get people not only like, hey, now I know about this thing, but man, I want to take part in it too.
The action behind it. They get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good at the next step process. They've had several meetings and several trainings where they say you have to ask someone, or someone has to be asked 8 times before they'll consider doing a thing that's like a big thing. And as you're you've got someone who's potentially, for example, considering running for county board or county clerk or whatever it happens to be, they need the extra encouragement, because it's not nothing. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I think I'll go for a walk.
I mean, I've covered elections for a very long time, and they can get so cutthroat, it's insane. And I have noticed one thing lately that I really like. Your social media has been funny. I mean, it used to just be kind of dry, and now I'm like, oh shit, that's a good meme. Oh damn, they're dropping.
You're out here memeing?
Yeah, no, they're good memes too. Like, they're dropping some good memes.
Yeah, so that was a very deliberate action, because again, like I alluded to just a few minutes ago, we've got to make sure we're meeting people where they are. People who are 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus, they may get on Facebook, they may get on other forms of social media. That's probably not where they're getting their main source of political news and content from.
I don't know. Boomers get a lot of news from Facebook. Boomers get a lot of news.
They just don't know how to fact check.
Therein lies the issue. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. What I mean, though, is social media in general is going to be more effective for our generation, for generations after ours. So we made a deliberate decision. We, the county party leadership, made a deliberate decision to get more active on social media, form a social media committee, and have a plan of how to move forward and how to drop memes, how to have not spicy as in like inappropriate content, but content that's going to get your attention, content that's going to get engagement and activity. And we've only seen our engagement grow since we've started doing that. And without name dropping the people who are doing it, because I don't know if they want that or not, I'll just say I offer nothing but kudos to the people who are doing that because they're just knocking it out of the park. And I'm excited to see however it grows moving forward,
I've definitely DM'd them and have had some fun.
Compliments.
Yeah, no, I mean, the compliments to the memes are actually what led us to this right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
about this? I had no idea.
I found their meme maker and we just started talking shit. And he was like, hey, here's a really good guest. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, that was very nice of him to say that.
So, yeah, because I'm used to Democrats like sucking just in general. Just like lately, I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting stance you're taking that seems to not be held by anyone else but Republicans. Like I said earlier, like Nikki Budzinski, like thanking ICE. Like, what's up with that? I mean, that's somebody who usually has our backs from what I've seen. Where is this coming from? Like you have a little insider look at like why Democrats do Republican things and what causes that. Like, why did they bring Liz Cheney onto the Kamala campaign? Like being like, oh, look, the warmongers of the Bush era, they love us. And it's like, oh, dude, no.
Yeah. So, with all due respect to the question and with all due respect to Congresswoman Budzinski, I can't, nor would I think it appropriate to answer for her for why she chose to make
That's
that
fair.
statement. With that being said, I can say with a fair amount of confidence that it was probably the concept of bringing the Cheneys along, for example. I know in 2020, it was like the new popular thing for middle-ish, somewhat right Republicans to say, oh man, I was a Republican all my life, but Donald Trump, woohoo, he's a bridge too far. I'm for Joe Biden. And I think that was probably the concept in 2024 for getting people on board for Kamala. Like if we can say, oh, look, there are people on the right who are for Kamala Harris. That means more people should be for Kamala Harris. More people on the right should be for Kamala Harris. Have the crossover vote. The problem is with Cheney specifically, while you may have gained some crossover votes, you probably lost some fringe, not in a bad way, further left than the Democratic Party, that's the better way to say it, votes as well.
And I've noticed a lot of people my age and younger and older even are moving further left with this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like I grew up and I was like, I'm a libertarian. And then I read Ayn Rand and just said, oh, I hate this shit. Atlas Shrugged, gross. I don't know why I just read this whole book. This is what you people believe? And then I found like anarcho-socialism and was like, wait a second. So we can have all of our needs met without a government? And that's pretty utopian. So
That, yeah.
yeah. So I became like something of a like Bernie bro in a way. I
Yeah.
went to go see him down at SAUE and I really liked Bernie. And now I feel like I'm growing even more left than Bernie. And it's like this uncontrolled fire where I'm like, wait, all of these people in the middle are just causing this more. Like I'm going to move further left. And I'm not unique in that aspect. I'm not
Sure.
unique at all in that aspect. And a lot of people are starting to view Democrats as like just the same thing as like I've been saying. And I've noticed that like nationally, like poll levels, Republicans are hated, but Democrats are like loathed. And I think a lot of it is this hypocrisy we're seeing. Like a lot of Democrats are against the Gazan genocide, and a lot of Democrats are very pro-Israel. And then there's universal health care, where lots of people are pro-universal health care, but a lot of Democrats are like, no, we just need cheaper health care. But like, we don't want to make the insurance companies mad. And I think Luigi Mangione allegedly is one of the reasons we're seeing that, because it's like, oh, wait a second. United Healthcare was denying that many claims. They had an AI doing that. Why are we even allowing this sort of business to exist? Like, capitalism is experiencing a reckoning, and I just want to know how, like, the Democratic Party can reckon with the fact that capitalism is having like a very adverse reaction to a lot of especially young people.
There's a lot there. So
There is, yeah, I've been thinking about
what
it for a
can
long time.
what can the Madison County Democratic Party do about that?
Probably not all that much.
What we can do what we can, and we can call out injustice when we see it. Are we going to have the biggest effect? Probably not outside of Madison County and maybe, the St. Louis metro area. That's not nothing, but it's probably not, it's not the splash that we need. That's really more of, we would need for the Madison County Democratic Party to work with DPI, the Democratic Party of Illinois, and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, to ideally convince, the higher ups to say, hey, this is the direction we need to be moving. Now, do I think that universal health care is the absolute ideal? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be a flip that we switch in like an immediate kind of way? Unfortunately not. I think you've got to go where we are to cheaper healthcare to universal healthcare. And ideally, that's a very fast transition.
Yeah.
But in reality, I don't know that it's actually going to be a fast transition.
Because the damn insurance parasites.
Insurance is
well,
worse.
but think about it. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that has no problem offering campaign contributions and then turning around and cashing in on them. Whether it's insurance, whether it's big tobacco, whether it's firearms, pick it. You know what I mean? Like there are so many big industries that put their money where their mouth is and then call in the chit, if you will, and it's like, man, we've got to make sure that people literally at the grassroots level are reaching out and saying, hey, big money might be for this, but I'm not, or big money might be against this, but I'm for it, and not only am I for it, but me and 50 of my neighbors are for it. And those 50 neighbors, we all know 30 more people that we're going to talk to and make sure they're for it too, or they're against it too, or whatever it happens to be. We've literally got to make sure that we are holding our representatives, not just House of Representatives, but anyone who represents us, county level, state level, federal level, representatives, senators, whatever it happens to be. We've got to make sure that we're holding them accountable, both in positive and negative ways. Hey, we support and we appreciate your decision and your action on this item. Hey, we wish you would have behaved differently or voted differently or spoken differently about this item. We've got to do just as much showing of appreciation as we are showing of a lack thereof, because whether it's a paid position for somebody or not, if we want for our represented officials to represent us, we've got to make sure that they know that we're more than just going to be the armchair quarterback or the Monday morning quarterback. You know what I mean? The easiest thing to do is to hop on social media and complain. And then when someone says, well, hey, what's your idea to make it better? Well, I don't know. Well, try, you don't have to have the right idea,
Yeah,
but
even a bad idea is something.
it's great to voice concern. It truly, truly is great to voice concern. And it's great to protest things. I mean, my gosh, we were just talking a few minutes ago about, the No Kings protests and how people are getting out and getting active in them. And that's awesome. But ideally, there's the not this, but that instead aspect of it where we can hear people's opinions on how to make things better. And then the important part is not just hearing them, but listening to them and acting upon them.
Yeah, I definitely email and call my my representatives too much, actually. Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth.
One of the biggest things that I've seen with people I know personally when it comes to voting, though, it boils down to they're going to vote Republican because they think financially it's going to be better for them. And also the lifestyle, the fact that, pride and, they don't believe racism exists anymore. And they think Democrats are a bunch of heathens, godless heathens. And, I get
I find this one particular point laughable, not in a disrespectful way. I've been a Democrat my entire life, and I play organ at my church every Sunday. And I say that not with any amount of arrogance or pride, but like,
no, and I love that because there is a certain view that people hold of Democrats. So I love
right,
that you do that you could, worship and have that instill, know that whatever personal beliefs that maybe your church or, traditionally are held, that that it should not have anything to do with politics.
right. I mean, and here's the thing. I don't understand why folks can't be why folks can't approach things like religion and politics with a live and let live perspective. In that, I have my religious beliefs and I have my political beliefs, and to the extent that people's beliefs aren't bigoted or hate filled, they don't have to agree with me. Like, I'm not going to say, like, oh, you don't see things the exact way I do. Well, you're an idiot, or you're going to go to hell, or you're a bad person, or whatever. I mean, people who vote Republican, for example, because they think that smaller government is better than bigger government. I disagree with that, but I don't think they're idiots. You know what I mean? Live and let live.
The Palantir contract that seems to be penned up, man, that's pretty much the biggest kind of government I've ever seen. Same with the Patriot Act. I don't know what they mean by small government other than they're going to fire the employees that actually make your life better. It's like, oh, cool. The government is providing a very good service like the National Weather Service and FEMA. Oh no, we're getting tornadoes and no one's helping clean it up. What the hell? Oh, wait, but Peter Thiel can get a database on you that they used to kill Gazan children? That's great. I love that. There's nothing big about that. That's not overarching and widespread and horrific.
Right. Democrats for decades have been shackled with the handout, not the hand up collar, or blame. Well, all you want is to, have big government to help support social programs and welfare programs. And all you want to do is give people a handout, not a hand up so they can work for themselves. And that's wrong. And I think it's stupid. But at the same time, I think that belief, I should say, is stupid, you know. But at the same time, look at it on the other side. They want big government for intelligence. They want big government for military. They want big government for oversight and, my personal opinion, overreach into people's personal lives. I don't think they're right. I think that this particular administration probably has more malice with their intent than I would like to see.
That's the nicest way I've ever heard that said. Just like, oh, no, they are evil monsters.
We'll call them stupid for you.
Yeah, no, I'll call
don't
them
worry.
evil. I'll say that they're like the gaping maw of Satan.
Here's the thing, obviously I'm, as I said earlier in the podcast, earlier in the session, I'm seeking to lead a county party. I have to know, and I do know, that not everyone in the party is going to believe the same thing that I do. And that's not even beginning to consider how people outside of the Democratic Party on the left or the right are going to view things. I feel like as Democrats or people on the left in general, in times, at different times, we've had this kind of impassable and impossible purity test of you're either 100% with us or you're 100% against us, and we're fine with either one. And it's like, oh man, come on. We can't be that way and actually expect to affect change. The Democrat Party of 1985 is not, nor can it be, the Democrat Party of 2025, nor can it or will it be the Democrat Party of 2030, because if it is, it's going to be dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
literally pick any party and you can say make the same statement. I mean, the Republicans in power now. The only thing that reminds me of the Republican Party of decades ago when we were all kids is the fact that they're talking about lower taxes, lower taxes, lower taxes.
What about war in the Middle East?
Yeah, but that's not always been their lean. That's not always been their big thing. Well, hey, if you want to protect your wallet, vote for Republicans. If you want to protect your neighbor, vote for Democrats, or whatever. Protect your neighbor's right to privacy, vote for Democrats. Well, okay, fine. there's the concept of like there's the war in the Middle East that the Bushes were both known for, right, wrong, or indifferent, however people choose to view it. I'm not a big fan, but I don't know that I would put that anchor around the waist of the Republican Party in general.
I don't know. Iran has weapons of mass destruction now, and Israel did just bomb the hell out of them. Seems like we're gearing up for I don't know, war in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Based on weapons of mass destruction that have supposedly been being built for 30 years now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, the Iranians, unless they all want to, like pick up a missile and run in the same direction and throw it as far as they can, I'm not necessarily concerned about that becoming a reality. That being said, if some shit goes down in the next few weeks, let's just forget that I made that very inaccurate, that prediction, yeah. Obviously you want world peace, you want for people to be able to live with their neighbors, whether it's like neighbors on the street, neighboring countries. You want for people to get along because that's literally the only way we'll all survive as long as possible. With that being said, I don't know if the current administration is more interested in war in the Middle East or more in the Midwest,
Both.
or on the West Coast,
All of it. I think we have to take our last break, and then we're going to come back and talk about how you can get involved in your local Democratic Party if you so desire. All right, cool. We'll turn the cameras off, turn them back on. It'll be a quickie.
Yeah, quick break.
All right. We're back from a very short break. I couldn't even finish my DMs. That break was so short. So, assuming somebody wants to get involved in the Madison County Democrats, and seems like y'all are trying to take a more progressive, more proactive turn, and that's good. I like hearing that. Again, I don't even know if I'm a Democrat. I could be a communist. I don't know.
As far
I love Castro.
I'll always vote probably Democrat.
Oh yeah, I think
no matter what, I'm definitely not, but that's
I can't say no matter what. I can't say no matter what. I think that's what keeps me from being a true blue.
my brother.
I'll never vote Republican though.
My brother does not care about any other issue besides unions, so he will only ever vote Democrat. He literally stopped talking to our other brother for 3 years.
They are the backbones
He's
of
a
American
union
labor.
laborer, so he's been, so he's like, I mean, that's the only, like, anything else, though, he does not care. He does not care about war, anything that doesn't affect him, and he's like 50-year-old white male.
So,
Anyway.
You agree unions are great, correct?
Oh, 100. Look, so here, yes, my answer is 100% yes on that. I was raised in a union household. My father, for over 33 years, was a union firefighter in Granite City. So for me to think anything else would be not only hypocritical of a group that helped put food on my table, but also very, very much the antithesis of what the Democratic Party stands for. So no, I am 100% behind unions. 100%.
I mean, yeah, same. My dad sucked, but he was a union mechanic. He used to take me out to the picket lines and let me hold signs, and I thought it was really cool. Loved it. I think unions are one of the greatest things ever, and I think that we need more of them. But
yeah,
local
100%.
people in the community, they say, damn, dude, shit sucks. And the Democrats might suck, but they don't have to suck. They are way more open to not sucking. I want to get involved politically and maybe take it in a direction where we're a little more progressive, like a lot more community-minded. So what could they do to get involved? Like, what could the average person watching this do to get involved with the Democrats?
So easiest things are, especially if they're on social media, Facebook specifically, there's a Facebook page for the Democratic Party of Madison County. It's literally Madison County and then parentheses IL Democratic Party. That's the easiest way to start getting information, because on that page, they'll find information about when meetings are, different events that are going on, different bits of outreach, and kind of the, like we briefly, spoke on earlier, some of the memes, some of the things we're trying to do. Beyond that, and messaging that group, they should look for our website, which is going to be back up soon, which I'm pretty positive is going to be madcodems.com. But that being said, the easiest way to get involved in an official capacity is to find out when and where their local Democratic precinct committee meetings are. Every group meets at least monthly, and then just show up and say, hey, here's where I am. Here's who I am. What can I do? This is what's important to me. This is like Nicole mentioned earlier, this is what's really important to me. This is what I could kind of care less about. But either way, I want to be active. How do I do that? Ideally, anyone, yourselves obviously included, anyone who comes around the Democratic Party of Madison County now or in the especially near future, ideally they feel nothing but excitement and being welcomed and happiness to be there and be a part of it and have it be something where not only do they want to be a part of it moving forward, but they want to help other people become a part of it as well. Um, that's that's literally the most important thing we can do is make sure that people feel like, hey, this is a useful way to spend my time and this is an important way to spend my time. And now I want to help other people realize that too.
All right. No, I dig that because, like, if there is, like, ultimately, we'd all like to change everything from outside the system, but we also need agents of change within the existing partisan system.
And I love that because I don't think me and you have the patience for like, we want to come in there and like just,
Oh, yeah.
so we need people like you who are like, you know what, we're going to work it from
Yeah.
inside.
Like, here's the thing too. I mean, it's great to work within the system, but you've got to make sure that the system continues to evolve. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected this coming Wednesday, it'll be until our convention, which happens the 29th day after the primary of next year. And at that point, if I'm being successful in the position, if I'm really enjoying the position, if things haven't, for whatever reason, blown up in my face, I might, seek a second term to continue the progress. But this isn't something where I'm going to say, hey, I want to be the party chair for the next decade. I know there are people who are more progressive than myself, which I'm not in the middle by any means, but who are more progressive than I am. I know there are people who have different views and more understanding of how to work certain things than I do. We've got to keep evolving. We've got to keep growing. 'Cause again, we just have to make sure we're casting as large of a net as possible, and being stagnant or being complacent just doesn't work anymore. Um, it's good to be in the know. It's good to be in the system, but you've got to make sure that by being in the system, you're not closing off the system. You know, I want to make sure like that. That's a huge thing for me. Whether it's a political party, whether it's anything, any organization. Unless the organization is specifically meant to be closed off and contrarian, they should be open. They should be open and inviting and welcoming.
So who votes for you to be the head of is it the precinct committee folk?
Yeah. So in this instance, it would be the elected and appointed precinct committee members. They'll cast weighted votes at a special meeting this coming Wednesday evening. And then after the primary election, any parties in Madison County would come together for their party convention where they would then vote on their chair, their first vice chair, their secretary, their treasurer, etc. And then again, those are only the elected individuals who are allowed to vote. Appointments aren't allowed to be made within the first 29 days, including or after the primary.
Awesome. I do like hearing this. I like hearing that things are moving in a way that is taking accountability for the things that suck and looking forward to making it better and having an open invite for like more of a forum. Like, I'm a bit of a know-it-all asshole. I like to come in and be like, wait, what's going on here? Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? And I'll have ideas. They'll be insane. But like, I'm kind of like I block everyone on Facebook who says something racist in a local news comment section kind of guy. And I mean, I'm just kind of like, you know what? I might share space with you. I might share community with you. I want you to have universal health care, and I want you to be fed. I want you to have housing. I want you to live a dignified existence. But if you ever say that to my fucking face, so help me God, I will throttle you. So like, that's the problem with me. Like, I go there. I go from like, hey, what's up? I want you to have all your basic needs met to what did you say about trans people? Say it again. Say it to my face.
I get that.
It's difficult for me to work in a space where we're trying to get people who might have very outdated, terrible beliefs about trans people, but also they believe in labor unions, they believe in environmentalism, they believe in other things. And it's like...
And that's why what I mentioned earlier, like, I think the only way to get even just maybe even get a bigot's vote for a Democratic candidate would definitely be to appeal to the financial aspect of, and yeah.
I think like
that is the only way to really make people who none of their views align. They hate trans people, they hate gay people, they hate Black people. Like, those people are only going to vote if they have a good reason. And that would be money, because everyone is short on it. Like, I'm short on it. I spent way too much of it this week. like I definitely want.
I don't know.
money.
I feel like that's such a small section of people, though. I think your idea would have been way more true in 2016 and 2020.
Really?
But yeah, now we're seeing the repercussions of thinking like that, and it's hurting everybody. It's not just hurting.
I know a few people who originally voted for Trump.
Yeah,
and who had totally was like, I thought it was going to save me.
They changed their minds because they see it in action, and
But some people doubled down though. So I don't know. I see with my coworkers and people that I talk to.
To quote Project Pat, "Don't save her. She don't want to be saved." Like, I think there has to be a line, right? Like, there are some people out there that will never, ever vote Democrat. And that's just something you have to accept.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
You're never going to get like a whole 100%. You just need 51%. You just need 51%.
Right. Well, and for what it's worth, I mean, to be clear, we don't want 100% because that's literally what people are protesting in the streets about now with the concept of no kings. You know what I mean? There is nothing democratic about 100% belief system. Like, you can say like, well, it's democratic, they still get to vote for one thing. Like, that's, that's that was it,
I think appealing to bigots loses votes.
And here's the
It's not really appealing to bigots.
so it's
anyway, sorry.
you've got to I think you've got to call out bigotry when you see it, but you've also got to find a way to get to the why. Because Corey, to your point about like, you block people who say hateful things, and you like, hey, I want you to have the things in life you need and you deserve, but like, say that to my face though, and see what happens. The hardest thing to get to is why. Because the hardest thing in that moment for me, I've been there where I just want to reach through the computer and like shake people and say like, what in the world is wrong with you to think these things? And obviously I can't do that. So all I'm doing is getting myself upset. And what does that gain me except for high blood pressure and more medicine to take? Like, I'm already diabetic, like I have enough, The hardest thing to get to, in my opinion, is the why. It's giving yourself the moment to take the breath and saying, why do they feel that way? And then giving yourself the moment to say, why do you feel that way? And hopefully the person on the other end sits and thinks about it and goes, well, gosh, why do I feel that way? Like,
oh, that's such a big ass.
Mindedness,
I used to think like you. I used to be like, hey, if I found the root of it, and the root of it's just, I don't like it. I don't like it when men is women. And it's like,
to that extent, when that's what it is, when it's just an absolute abject refusal to accept anything other than white is right, or straight white male, and that's all. Here. I've got the blockers on. When it's that, you know what? I mean, as they say in church, hey, go with God. Go do your thing, and don't be surprised when people point and laugh behind your back or at your face. I, on my personal page, I've been accused of being somewhat trollish. Occasionally, I've been accused of being somewhat condescending, because I tend to laugh at someone who publicly will probably support some kind of bigoted idea to make English the national language, and whether they speak or whether they type it, they destroy the English language with their mere utterances.
Absolutely.
See, honestly, that's the way to approach it instead of getting mad about it, because that's what I try to do. And I do troll people. I can't be mad over every person.
I used to do that too. And I have so many death threats. I got all the death threats.
Getting death threats is never acceptable. Getting threatened in any way is never acceptable, Obviously, people should utilize the law and court systems as they can to protect themselves and their families,
Absolutely. All right. So I think I think we gotta conclude it. Any
Any
last?
last words?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, if you're in Madison County, if you know of people in Madison County, come our way, send them our way. If you also happen to be a Democrat, but just we're here for everybody. We're going to be working for everybody and ideally with everybody, just to make the area better. That's where we are. That's who we are. We're your friends. We're your neighbors. Even if we don't agree on every single thing, we're working to make things better. Final words on a personal level, on a personal note, I should say, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you reaching out, making time for this. I know that my availability earlier in the week was not at all ideal. So thank you for the flexibility. Thank you for just working to get this set up. I truly appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no.
Thank you for.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say just break a leg. Okay. Yeah, well, you get it.
That's showbiz, baby. Yeah. Our whole goal here is to solve the world's problems in our own backyard. And even though I don't know if either one of us is a true blue Democrat.
No, but I have learned a lot. That's why I really do appreciate him breaking that down for me. And so this has been very informative. And I might even try to get lazily involved in something maybe because I'm busy. But I can. I'm down for memes and social media. So
I'm gonna find a way to sedate myself and then try to get involved because if I go in there the way I feel all the time, I'm gonna.
I'll have a dark gun handy.
I'll just randomly bring out a hammer and sickle and be like, "Yeah, I've gone so blue, I'm red now, boys."
Anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you all too.
Rest of the day.
You all too. Thank you so much.
I hope you win.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Have a good one, man.
You all too. Thanks.